A quick heads up that we were told about an hour ago that there might be some issues with Facebook Live this morning, so there may or may not be, I'm not sure at this point, but a reminder that we are on YouTube, so please do go to our YouTube channel. Of course, if you're not already on our YouTube channel, you're not hearing me saying this in Facebook land, and this is one of those timey-wimey time-space continuum things, isn't it? So So welcome to Unity of Palmyra, whether you are sitting in this room or you are safely at home. We are absolutely delighted that you're here. At Unity of Palmyra, we center ourselves in love, and then we embrace a positive path for spiritual living. Not quite as easy as it sounds, is it? We are an open and affirming congregation. We love you just the way you are in all of your magnificent glory, and we're going to really be looking at your magnificent glory today as we explore Unity's second principle, which acknowledges that we are all demonstrations of the divine and of that glory. So let's take that understanding and that empowering thought into our opening prayer. So if you can safely close your eyes wherever you are, I invite you to do that. And in that simple motion, in that simple action, we tell ourselves and the universe that we are coming apart for a while, that we have set this time apart in our week to come together physically and in spirit, to remember that truth of who we are, to remember that we are divinity, we are spirit with skin on, and to remember that we chose that, and so we fully embrace our humanity as an expression of source, of the divine. However we name and identify that power that flows through and enlivens both the universe and us. And so with every breath we become more and more present. With every breath we let go of whatever came before this moment and whatever will come after this moment, and we give ourselves the gift, that beautiful, sweet gift of being fully here now. And as always, we enter into this time with gratitude. Gratitude for this space that we share wherever we are. Gratitude for this time apart. And most especially, gratitude for one another and the journey that has brought us all together. And so it is. Amen. So let's stand, and if you're at home, I invite you to stand too as we celebrate the beauty in you.
I see the beauty in you. I see the power in you. I see the greatness in you. And so it is. I see the child in you. I see the sweetness in you. I see the softness in you. And so it is. I can see it. It's right there before me. I can feel it deep in my soul. I just know it. That you are an angel full of magic and power and pure sweet love. I see the goodness in you. I see the wisdom in you. I see the strength in you. And so it is. I see the joy that's in you. I see your light shining through. I see the love that's in you. And so it is. Well, I can see it. It's right there before me. I can feel it. It's deep in my soul. I just know it. That you are an angel full of magic and power and pure sweet love. I see the grace that's in you. I see the courage in you. I see the heart that's in you, and so it is. I see the beauty in you. I see the power in you. I see the greatness in you, and so it is. And so it is.
Let's share together in our vision. Centered in love, we embrace a positive path for spiritual living. And our mission, we provide a welcoming community that inspires and encourages all who gather here through the teaching, sharing, and practice of universal spiritual principles. So take a few minutes to safely greet one another. If you are vaccinated and masked, feel free to hug. Take a few minutes and greet one another. Hi. Checking in on it. Go ahead, you can start. And wave to everybody in Facebook and YouTube land.
I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here.
Great, have a seat. I love that. I just love that line, my soul is welcome here. Doesn't that feel good? You are just, all parts of you are welcome here. I think that's very sweet. So a couple of announcements. Our prayer chaplains today are Linda Longenecker, who is actually in the sanctuary, and Helen Baker, who is at home. Hi, Helen. Thank you for supporting us. And also just a thank you to Linda and Helen, who have taken over the bookstore team leadership and are doing a wonderful job. If you haven't been in there after a while, it's sorted, it's labeled, it just looks great. So thank you. Thank you, thank you. And remember, that bookstore is part of our outreach. We think of it as an extension of the little free library out front. So during regular office hours, that is open for anybody to come in and take what they want, leave what they want, leave a love offering or not, it doesn't matter. But that is part of our outreach effort because we all love our books. We do have a couple of worship team needs. I think we still need a couple of greeters and ushers, and you want to reach out to Stephanie Dabrowski for that. And I think we need one more stream chat monitor. The stream chat monitor is just, you just volunteer to sit in the sanctuary with a laptop and earplugs in, right? I'm looking at Sherry. And you're just monitoring the Facebook feed. And Lindsay is in charge of that effort and that team. And that's just because, you know, when the guys are doing the streaming, they can't tell if something's going wrong because they're not actually watching the Facebook feed or the YouTube feed. So it's really helpful to have somebody back there saying, hold on, we can't hear this person, or wait a minute, the feed just went down, or whatever. So it really is important. If you're willing once a month to sit with your laptop and watch that for us, that would be super helpful. We did start our Mastering Life's Energies class on Tuesday. Thank you to everyone in that class. It was just wonderful. It's such a joy to be able to share these materials with you. And we also started our first Thursday evening Zoom last Thursday, and I'm actually going to talk about that during the talk, so I'm going to let that go for a second. And this is your reminder that we are having 2 workshops, one in May and one in June, that are focused on teaching and learning how to live within the construct of what's called spiral dynamics. And spiral dynamics is a model of evolution, of how we are evolving as a species. I've been studying it since 2000. It's gaining more and more traction in spiritual circles because it does help us to understand why is all this happening, right? Anybody want to know why all this is happening? Sign up for the Spiral Dynamics workshop. So it's really a 2-parter. I'm doing what I'm calling Spiral Dynamics 101, and that's Sunday afternoon, May 16th. And that's just going to be a couple hours of me introducing you to spiral dynamics, introducing you to the language and the principles behind spiral dynamics, because then in June, we're bringing in Reverend Pat Venema, who applies spiral dynamics to the evolution of Christianity, and will introduce us to what's called integral Christianity, and how Christianity has been part of our evolution, and many religions have been part of our evolution, but how particularly in the Western world, how our evolution as a species is tied into the evolution of Christianity. And we're also going to look at where unity falls in all of that. So if you have a basic understanding of spiral dynamics, you could probably just show up in June, but if not, or if you want a deeper understanding of spiral dynamics, you do want to come to my workshop in May so that you understand what the heck Pat is talking about in June, all right? Because there is a specific language that we use in spiral dynamics. And again, I'm very excited to bring that to this community. It really is cutting edge stuff, and I know we love that. So, Miss Helene, would you please read the daily word for us?
The grace of God is alive in me. I don't need to do anything to earn or deserve the grace of God, because it is always present, mine to claim in any situation. Grace dawns in my awareness as soon as I move beyond the limits of my human understanding. I let go and let the peace, love, wisdom, and strength of God fill me, lift me, and guide me. In both the challenging and the ordinary moments of life, the grace I give and the grace I receive keep the awareness of God in my heart. During a tough conversation, a thought comes to mind that helps reestablish harmony. As I mull an important decision, a fresh insight clarifies my thinking. Feeling overwhelmed by my to-do list, I feel renewed energy and move forward with strength and enthusiasm. In these moments and more, I discover grace anew. From His fullness, we have all received grace upon grace. John chapter 1, verse 16.
I am home, my family is here. I feel loved by the ones I hold so dear. And when my family needs me, I promise to be there. And when I need my family, I'm lifted up in prayer.
So this is the time of our service when we consciously enter into that time of prayer. So I invite you again, if it's safe wherever you are, to close your eyes, to gently do so, and to take a nice, big, deep, centering, grounding breath. As we open ourselves up to that grace that we just heard Helene read about, that sense of ease, that sense of unexpected blessing, those wonderful, exquisite moments when we know in every cell of our being that all is well. Where we know that wherever we go, our soul is welcome there. And that wherever we are on this amazing journey we call life, that we are willing to be fully and presently here, now, looking for that grace, looking for that blessing. And so right now we surround anyone from our community and beyond who has submitted prayer requests to our team. And we also surround our prayer chaplains with our love and comfort and strength and wisdom and courage as they hold that incredibly powerful space for us, not just on Sundays, but throughout the week. We honor their commitment to seeing each one of us as the divine, to holding that incredibly powerful space for each one of us, and for the work of this community. And so whatever challenge you are experiencing, we invite you to put it into that space now, that space of grace, that space of knowing that all is well. And if you have a joy or a gratitude to share, we invite you to do that so that we can share in that with you, with that blessing that you have received or that blessing you are anticipating receiving. We celebrate with you as community. And we extend the love, the acceptance, the joy that we experience as community into our world, knowing that these walls cannot contain it. And for our willingness and our ability to spread this truth that we know, we say thank you. And namaste.
The God in me beholds the God in you. Namaste. The God in me beholds the God in you. Namaste. You are beautiful. You are whole. You are beautiful. You are whole. I wanted to just share a couple of things. My beautiful friend Kelly shared India Ari's music with me many, many years ago, and I didn't pay as much attention as I might have. But I did some reading about India this week, and her mission, in her music is with every song she writes, with every song she performs, that she touches someone with her music. And before she sings this song, she tells everyone to listen to the words of this song. And I think that's great advice, and I hope that you take her beautiful words in and take them to your heart and own them. I am light, I am light. 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 I am not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. 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 I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is whole light. All light. I am divinity defined. I am a God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
I can't look at Janie when she starts to cry or I start to cry, and then we're shot. We're just done. That was gorgeous. So welcome back to our 5-week series based on Unity's 5 basic principles. Last week, we started with the first principle, which is essentially God is. God is spirit. There is only one presence and one power, God, the good omnipotent. And then we had an interesting conversation about, well, is God good, right? Are we assigning human qualities to God? I will tell you that conversation continued on Thursday night. I am so deeply grateful to everyone who jumps on those Thursday night Zoom discussions, because gosh, do we go deeper. And this last Thursday night was no exception. We talked about the nature of God and how we see and experience God, and we talked about how God can also be seen as that wellspring of wisdom that we have within each one of us. And as much as sometimes we hate hearing we have all our own answers, I've had clients say to me, I don't want to find my own answer, I want you to tell me what to do. Right? I'm like, yeah, but that's not how it works. And I want to do a shout out to Sam Sherman, because he used a metaphor that I really loved. He said, I know I have my own answers, but sometimes I need a can opener to help me take the lid off and find it. And what we realized is that isn't that a beautiful visual? That can opener is like what we do here, right? It's classes and workshops and books and podcasts and hopefully Sunday talks. And those discussions that we have on Thursday nights, that are like can openers that help us find those answers within ourselves and really access that divinity within ourselves. So thank you to everyone who participated in that. And that really leads us right into the second principle. And so the second principle is we are spiritual beings. So the first one would be God is, the second one is we are. Of course, I always want to say Penn State after that, but that's okay. So we are spiritual beings, all right? God is individualized in each one of us as our divine essence, our Christ nature. So in his book, Original Blessing, Matthew Fox, he really denies that traditional doctrine of original sin. He says, we do not enter the world as sinful creatures. And honestly, it's that understanding that sets us apart from many other Christian denominations. We have a different view of sin, right? And we do not believe that we are born in sin. We do not believe we are born inherently wicked. He says, we burst into the world as original blessings. The only sin that Fox recognizes is the sin of seeing people and things as separate from one another. In other words, the only sin is the refusal to see us as all one. He says, the forces of fear and pessimism so prevalent in society and religion need to be countered by an increased awareness of awe and goodness. Isn't that beautiful? So when we see fear and pessimism, we need to call forth our awareness of awe and goodness. And he says that when original blessing replaces original sin, relationships of awe, of passion and compassion, of love for justice and for all the earth are resurrected. So anyone feeling any fear or pessimism? I'm just saying, it's been a heck of a year, folks, right? So, I know I sometimes, even though there has been a shift, I still feel some anxiety over where the world is headed. I still have a sense of, when I hear some conversations or I see some shows and I think, how could you possibly believe that? Or how could you possibly think that? Right? Not that I'm being judgmental or anything. So in preparing for the Spiral Dynamics workshop on the 16th, I've been reviewing the work of my brilliant friend Cindy Wigglesworth. You guys have heard me talk about her before. And she asks a question when she's introducing the whole evolutionary model that is spiral dynamics. And she says, what if the problems are the hope? What if the sources of our anxiety or our pessimism or our fear are actually the hope? What if the problems are serving a purpose to stimulate a new way of thinking and being, of compelling us to ask the question, isn't there a better way to do what we've been doing for millennia? And that's actually the foundation of spiral dynamics, that every stage of evolution is created in reaction to the stage that goes before it. And so in every stage, there's growth and there's progress. And so can you imagine with what we're going through right now, what the next stage might look like as a response to those problems that we're having? So I don't know about you, but that brings me hope. That brings me hope. Wasn't there a movie, the Marigold Hotel or something like that? That's the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. And wasn't there a line from that that said, if it's not okay, it's not the end, right? So that's kind of the foundation of spiral dynamics. If it's not okay, it's not the end. All right, we're going to keep going. So back to Fox, just as we have 5 basic spiritual principles, creation spirituality is taught by Fox, has 10 principles. I like our 5 better. I like to keep it simple. But here's his principle 8. Tell me if this sounds familiar. We are all sons and daughters of God. Therefore, we have divine blood in our vein, the divine breath in our lungs, and the basic work of God is compassion. Interestingly, as you go through the evolutionary phases of spiral dynamics, what you see is a decrease in fear and an increase in compassion. So how cool is that? So in her book, The 5 Principles, Reverend Ellen writes this: most people still want to believe in a God that knows and cares about the details of their lives, that can make a difference in what happens, or at least in how they feel about what happens. Even with the concept of God as the ground of being, as impervious to our dramas as the air we breathe, I don't know, that's almost insulting, isn't it? Like, really? I have good drama. You're not interested in it. That personal relationship with the divine has not been lost. And we actually talked about this on Thursday night. But I want a personal relationship with the ground of being. And what Ellen and many wisdom teachers say is that with principle 2, that personal relationship has merely been relocated inside us as us. And when I read that, it reminded me of what Reverend Doris had said that I shared last week, that her focus now is seeing, acknowledging, honoring, and serving the divine in people, and not worrying so much about what God is. And it's interesting, if you look at our language, several years ago in another community that I served, there was a prayer chaplain training going on one weekend, much as we did 2 years ago with Reverend Annette. In fact, I believe Reverend Annette was leading that. And so I had just checked in on them, said, how are you guys doing? Do you need anything? Do you need, lunch or brownies or chocolate, or, how are you doing? Trying to be supportive. And so I checked in, and it was great. Everything was going great. And as I was leaving, I said, hey, pray for me. I'm going to go home, and I'm going to work on my talk for tomorrow morning. And one of them said, I affirm that you are going to complete your work easily. And I said, from your mouth to God's ear. And yeah, I know, Vicky's going. And all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, what did I just say? And what was interesting was that I was giving this talk the next day. And so I said, I kind of laughed at myself, and I said, so since I'll be preaching tomorrow that we're all expressions of God, that means from your mouth to your ears, right? But look how easily we slip into that, God willing, from your mouth to God's ear, in the hand of God, right? Notice how we slip into that, God being out there somewhere. So, Ellen continues, people who insist that humans are divine are often accused of thinking that they are God. And the secret is, we are. Just as every tree is God in expression, just as every sunset or newborn child or act of mercy allows us to witness the divine, we too are expressions of God on earth. We are the divine expressions in human form. At first, it may sound grandiose to claim this, but properly understood, the awareness of our own divinity is where we derive our comfort, our guidance, and our strength for the human experience. We can never be separate from God, and we have only begun to tap the power of the human spirit. So that reminded me, especially when she said people who insist that humans are divine are often accused of thinking they are God, and by extension that they're heretics, right? So that reminded me of something that we learned years ago when we studied Roger Walsh's Essential Spirituality. And that's that common core of wisdom and practice that is common to all of the major faith traditions on the planet. And it's called the perennial philosophy. Now, there are different versions of the perennial philosophy. Again, I like the one where there are only 4 crucial claims. I think Ken Wilber has 7 or 8. I like 4. I like simple. So really quickly, just a recap of that in case you weren't here for that. The first claim is that there are 2 realms of reality, right? We get that, right? There's the physical reality, and then there's spirit. There's that other realm. And regardless of what we call it, when Charles so beautifully sang One Power last week, right? Doesn't matter what we call it. Tao, God, spirit, consciousness, the ground of being, the creative force. I think that was Edgar Cayce. There are 2 realms of reality. The second perennial claim is that humans partake of both realms, that we live in both realms. I think you've heard we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I usually add very human experience. For the last year, I would add very, 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 very human experience, right? But the whole point of that is we are spiritual beings. We are not divorced from the sacred. We are intimately and eternally linked to it. And then the third claim, and you're going to recognize this actually as our fourth principle, is that human beings can recognize this divine spark, right? We can experience the divine. We can experience that energy, that source, the force, whatever, directly. We don't have to believe this on faith, and we don't need an intermediary. Again, that's where we differ from some other traditions. We believe we have direct access to the divine, to that ground of our being. And that is, in fact, our fourth principle, that we access that through prayer and meditation or whatever practice we personally engage in. And then finally, and this is what applies to today, the perennial philosophy's fourth claim is that realizing our spiritual nature is the summum bonum. That's Latin, in case I didn't say it right. In other words, it's the highest goal and greatest good of human existence. That literally the reason we are born is to remember that we are spiritual beings. The reason that we choose to come into skin, this is why you will never hear me teach, preach, or coach that we need to deny our humanity. We picked this. In fact, Cindy says, I might quote this badly, but essentially what she says is we choose to become separate beings so that we can choose once again to merge. Unless we become separate, there is no need to merge. There is no need to remember who we are. Epictetus said, "You are a distinct portion of the essence of God and contain part of him, it, whatever, in yourself. Why then are you ignorant of your noble birth? Why do you not consider whence you came? Why do you not remember when you are eating who you are who eats and whom you feed? Do you not know that it is the divine you feed, the divine you exercise?" I think some of us need to exercise the divine a little more often. "You carry God about with you, and yet you know nothing of it." And Roger sums up this portion of his work saying, "The words differ from one tradition to another, but their central message is the same. You are more than you think." We underestimate ourselves, and we underestimate each other. So you all know I love Jesus, and I think this is what Jesus came to teach us, that we are that spirit being that we are. When he said the Father and I are one, he wasn't just saying that about himself. He was saying it about everyone. It's reported, and I say reported because of some current scholarship. It's not clear who said what when, but it's reported that he taught on several occasions that we would do greater things than he had done, and that he would get frustrated with the disciples because they kept looking to him as this great miracle worker when he said, "It's not me, guys, it's the Spirit within." And guess what? You have the same Spirit within. That's the problem with putting people on a pedestal. Lets us off the hook. So just like a drop of water from the ocean or a wave of the ocean, it's not the whole ocean, but it contains all the qualities of the ocean, just as we contain all the qualities of the divine if we're willing to demonstrate it. Remember that the young woman, Amanda Gorman, from that gorgeous inaugural poem that she read, when she said, "For there is always light if we're only brave enough to see it, if we're only brave enough to be it. There is always light." So last week we looked at the first principle, and we committed, at least for this next 5 weeks, to believe that there is only one presence and one power. And we looked at how to practice that. So if we're acknowledging that there's only one presence and one power, and that power is only good, which is still up for discussion, does that mean that we're only demonstrating our Christedness, we're only demonstrating our spiritual nature if we're good enough? Anybody else ever had that experience at 12 years old when they watched the nun story and walked around for a couple of weeks, hands folded, looking at the ground, thinking that made him a nun? Was that only me? Right? That's actually an embarrassingly a true story, you guys, until my mother told me, honey, we're not Catholic, you can't be a nun. I was so bummed, man. Seriously. So one of the things I'm playing with around this whole, we assign human qualities to God, and so if we say God is only good, what does that mean? And I'm really exploring, replacing, I'm just playing with this, replacing the word good with the word whole. Because there's so much energy around good, isn't there? Like, am I good enough? Right? Am I good enough? Do I do enough? Do I be enough? Check out Wayne Muller. He has done some gorgeous work around that. So I'm playing with the whole thing instead of good. There's only one presence and one power, God the whole, omnipotent, right? Because part of our journey as spiritual beings having an incredibly human experience is the full integration of that. And implicit in that integration is that it then becomes an expression of our wholeness. Not our goodness, not our enoughness, but our wholeness. Eckhart Tolle in A New Earth said, Jesus speaks of the innermost I am, the essence, identity of every man and woman, every life form, in fact. He speaks of the life that you are. Some Christian mystics have called it the Christ within. Buddhists call it your Buddha nature. For Hindus, it's Atman, the indwelling God. When you are in touch with that dimension within yourself, and being in touch with it is your natural state, not some miraculous achievement. How's that for a mind blower? All your actions and relationships will reflect the oneness with all life that you sense deep within. This is love. Love and do what you will, said St. Augustine. Words cannot get much closer to the truth than that. So one of my favorite little, I guess it's an analogy or a parable maybe that talks about the importance of recognizing our inner divinity is from the book Illusions, and it's written by Richard Bach. He tells this wonderful little story. He says, there once lived a village of creatures along the bottom of a great crystal river. The current of the river swept silently over them all, young and old, rich and poor, good and evil, the current going its own way, knowing only its own crystal self. Each creature, in its own manner, clung tightly to the twigs and rocks of the river bottom, for clinging was their way of life, and resisting the current what each had learned from birth. But one creature said at last, I am tired of clinging. Though I cannot see it with my eyes, I trust that the current knows where it's going. I shall let go and let it take me where it will. Clinging, I shall die of boredom. The other creatures laughed and said, Fool, let go, and that current you worship will throw you tumbled and smashed across the rocks, and you will die quicker than boredom. But the one heeded them not, and taking a breath, did let go, and at once was tumbled and smashed by the current across the rocks. Yet in time, as the creature refused to cling again, the current lifted him free from the bottom, and he was bruised and hurt no more. And the creatures downstream, to whom he was a stranger, cried, See a miracle! A creature like ourselves, yet he flies. See the Messiah come to save us all. And the one carried in the current said, I am no more Messiah than you. The river delights to lift us free, if only we dare to let go. Our true work is this voyage, this adventure. But they cried the more, Savior, all the while clinging to the rocks, and when they looked again, he was gone, and they were left alone, making legends of a Savior. So wisdom recognizes that we are inseparable from the divine. And yet back to what Ellen observed, that when we say we are God, we're somewhat looked at askew. And Roger Walsh talks about this. He says, this is not the ego inflation of megalomaniacs like the Roman emperors who proclaimed themselves God, nor is it the ego disintegration of the severe psychotic who cannot find the boundaries of his own body, nor is it blasphemy against God. Rather, it is an awareness that there is only God. The recognition that all people, all creatures, all life, and certainly not the ego alone, live in and are lived by the divine. I think this was very interesting. He says, both the emperor and the psychotic think that they alone are divine. The sage perceives all people as divine. Bless you. The psychotic and the megalomaniac expect to be worshipped by everyone. The sage happily worships everyone. The psychotic suffers from ego disintegration. The megalomaniac suffers from ego inflation. The sage delights in ego transcendence. What a world of difference between them. That always reminds me of Meister Eckhart's explanation. Here in my own soul, the greatest of all miracles has taken place. God has returned to God. So let's get back to the fifth principle. How do we act this out? How do we demonstrate this? So what if you would go through life truly seeing the divine in everyone and yourself? I mean, like really, no kidding. Because that means everyone. I see those raised eyebrows. It might mean also that we stop clinging to the rocks and the twigs. I see those as a metaphor for the beliefs and our thoughts and our opinions, what we think we know about ourselves and others. What if we stop clinging to that? What if we see everyone as inherently whole, regardless of how they're behaving? Now, this does not mean that, all behavior is okay. Clearly, all behavior is not okay. But what if we can see through the behavior to the heart and the wholeness of the person? What if we can hold that space for one another? We might become more loving and more forgiving and more compassionate and more interested in that awe and goodness that Fox talked about. It also might mean that we start believing that everything is working together for good. Now, when we say everything is working together for good, that's kind of like that statement that the arc of the universe is a moral one. Those are not passive statements. Those are not, I can just sit back and everything will be fine. No. Inherent in both of those statements is that we are showing up in our fullness and our wholeness as expressions of the divine and being that light that the world needs. Thomas Merton said, "Then it was as if I suddenly saw the sacred beauty of their hearts, the depth of their hearts where neither sin nor desire nor self-knowledge can reach, the core of their reality, the person that each one of them is in the eyes of the divine. If only they could all see themselves as they really are. If only we could see each other that way all the time, there would be no more war, no more hatred, no more cruelty, no more greed. I suppose the big problem would be that we would fall down and worship each other." So I'm going to give Reverend Ellen the last word on this one. She completes her exploration of this principle with this observation. She says, "The Easter metaphor of crucifixion, tomb, and resurrection reflect our lives as they play out over and over again. The worst of our experiences can become the greatest blessings of our lives. Doesn't that kind of sound like we embrace a positive path for spiritual living? The darkest human behavior can move us to compassion and to the expression of our higher selves. Remember the global outpouring of love and our sense of oneness on 9/11. With our response to a terrorist attack, we glimpsed who we truly are and what the kingdom of heaven can be. Love outweighs violence. Our human oneness trumps our differences. As we continue to call on the best of ourselves, whether we call it the prefrontal cortex of the brain or the divine within, we consciously evolve for the better. So you are the light of the world. You are the hands and feet, the ears and mouths, the heart, and the very soul of God. You are the face of God. Let's take that into meditation.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of God.
So I invite you to take a deep, cleansing, healing, grounding breath. Feel that breath moving all the way through you, filling every cell. Feel your lungs filling, your belly expanding, the tips of your fingers and toes tingling with the experience of the breath spreading throughout your entire body. See it traveling through your veins, across your skin, to the tips of every hair on your head. See the breath. And now visualize that breath that now fills every molecule of your being as spirit. Picture it glowing. Picture it gently vibrating. See it for the energy that it is. Observe yourself as that spirit being that you are. That spirit being housed in the skin you're in. but extending far beyond. What if you were to know that this is the truth of you? That you are here, that you have chosen to be here, to have this very human experience, to remember who you are, to consciously merge with the divine. To fully integrate both your human and spiritual nature, not denying or rejecting either. What if that search for the divine, that search for the connection with God by whatever name we call it, is simply a yearning for that wholeness, that acceptance, that deep, cosmic, all-pervading compassion that we are capable of when we remember who we are. Take a minute in the silence to call forth that compassion within yourself. To first surround yourself with absolute kindness, acceptance, and compassion. And then on your next breath, to send it out. To send it out to the person beside you, behind you, in front of you. To send it out to family, friends, colleagues, and eventually to everyone who shares your journey. As we commit this week in our wholeness to see everyone on that journey as the face of God.
I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family.
So when you're ready, open your eyes and just look around the room and practice with people where it's a little easier to do so, seeing the face of God. Just look around. Doesn't have to get weird. This is practice. And then I invite you to go forth this week and continue that practice. Oh, so this is the time of our service where we acknowledge the flow of giving and receiving, where we acknowledge that we are always in that flow of giving and receiving. And this is your opportunity during the service to demonstrate your understanding that we are always in the flow of giving and receiving. So as always, we are incredibly grateful for your continued generosity and support of this community, and the recognition that you have that the role we play in this community, the example we set in this community, the safe space we provide in this community is really important. So thank you. And I think that the end of this one might be a sing-along, right, Janie? Okay. Okay.
Or whenever you want.
Or whenever you want. That's right.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine.
All around the world,
all around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everybody.
I think you need to stand up for this part.
this little light of mine,
I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
one more time.
This little light of mine, oh yeah, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Woo! Well done. Well done, Unity of Palmyra. All right, let's share together in our unity blessing. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we behold the Christ in each and every one of you. And it is the first Sunday in May, so you know what that means? Birthday Sunday. So happy birthday, everybody in May. Yes, I see you back there, Miss Elaine. Happy birthday here. Happy birthday out there on Facebook and YouTube land. We love you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, we love you. Happy birthday to you, and many more. So I just have to, this is just so darn cute. So Vicki reminded me that today is my 4th anniversary here, and she said, here's the pony that you're always looking for. Super cool, right? I think she thinks it's going to go to Cassie, but I don't know. I think this might go in one of my bookshelves. So thank you, Miss Vicki. It's the pony, people. We're always looking for the pony. Found it! We found the pony! All right, now let's sing the peace song. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And wherever God is, all is well. Yay, God. All right. Have a wonderful week. Go forth. See the face of God in your mirror and in everyone you meet. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.